like to thank you all for joining us today for our Zombie Lead Hunter webinar. We're really excited to talk to you about the dead leads that you have in your database and how you resurrect those and make those work for you. This webinar is based on our zombie infographic. If you haven't already downloaded it, please take a minute and download it after the webinar. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Now, let me introduce to you our panelists today. We have Jay Williams. He's our Vice President of Digital Services here at MarketStar. He spent a significant portion of his career helping global brands and marketing agencies implement channel marketing and relationship management solutions. Some of the brands he's worked with are Verizon, HP, Microsoft, and Intel. I'm Katina Martinez, and I've managed lead nurturing campaigns for some of the world's most admired technology companies, including Microsoft, HP, Schneider Electric, Motorola Solutions, and Sony. I've been here for about 4 years now at MarketStar, and I was able to be a part of this grand movement to start a lead nurturing program here and help to make it successful. We're also excited to have Michelle Eakin with us today. She's the Director of Marketing Integration for the IT business within Schneider Electric North America. Michelle is responsible for finding ways to integrate efforts within their marketing initiatives. One of the biggest areas to find synergies is within Schneider's lead nurturing program. Michelle and her team drive execution of the program, including segmentation, testing, analysis, and process management. So thank you both for being here with us today. Now let's get started. This is our agenda. These are the topics that we're going to be covering today. But first, let me go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. First, we welcome your questions and actually very much look forward to them, and we'll do our best to answer all of them. So think about those while we're going through the presentation and write them down, and then we'll have a Q&A section towards the end. If we run out of time before answering all of your questions, we'll include them and their answers in the follow-up email going out to all of you. Also, there will be a couple of polling questions included in the webinar session, and we'd appreciate it if you would just take a second to answer those and help us to learn a little bit more about you. Now, let's dive into the topic. We talk a lot about zombie leads, and we all experience them. A lot of you are probably asking, why zombies? What are zombie leads, and how are they created? Well, if you're a lead generation machine or an organization that works with a mostly static list of leads, it's pretty likely that you have a database full of leads that you're not quite sure what to do with. So what we're going to talk about today is how to make these leads work for you. Zombie leads are typified by prospects that sit in your database and are waiting for a savvy business analyst to inject them with intelligence through some solid segmentation and nurturing. Essentially, they're looking for somebody to give them a brain. But before we give our dead leads some brains, we need to understand who they are. Their characteristics typically fall into 3 categories: dead, and we know nothing about them, or they're wandering around aimlessly, dragging that foot, aimlessly consuming content with no rhyme or reason, or they're just ignored because they are too old and outdated, and quite frankly, nobody really knows what to do with them. I mean, are they contactable still? Are they still there? So how are zombie leads created? Companies with average lead management processes require more than 1,000 leads to create one customer. Now, if you think about that, it could very well be that you hold an event that only attracts 200 leads that you're going to put into this funnel and start with nurturing process. So if you think about it, 1,000 leads to create one customer, it's a big number. There are many reasons for this. One of them is inefficient follow-up and handoff to sales. Another could be no insights into the lead, or no plans to continue communication to the leads, long sales cycles, irrelevant content, and the list goes on. So what makes this problem worse is how companies react. Your zombie prospects are basically the elephant in the room. Everybody knows they're there, but no one wants to acknowledge their existence. So your zombies, they sit and they wait, while you do essentially one of 2 things, or as we've seen other customers do. They'll purchase another large list that they can inject into their database and hopefully pull out one of those golden leads that will actually turn into a sell, or they increase investment in other top of funnel activities such as campaigns and shows, or they implement a marketing automation tool such as Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, which is actually a great start. So now we move into our topic here, which is marketing automation. And I know that a lot of us are somewhat familiar with marketing automation, and and the promises that we hear from our peers and from those who own the products that we use as our marketing automation tools. Does marketing automation magically infuse your zombies with brains is the question, turning them into solid prospects for revenue? Unfortunately, no. You've read the statistics on lead nurturing and you've bought into the promises, but have you truly made the commitment? That's the big question. Now let's go on to how we get the fullest benefit out of our marketing automation. Now, one of the things that we all need to understand is that marketing automation is definitely not easy. True nurturing takes commitment, takes some discipline, and it does not involve a series of one-offs to your lead database, which I know that a lot of you have probably done, but it's a strategic stream of communications that demonstrate to your audience that you understand them and you understand their needs. In fact, an effective lead nurturing program takes 6 months to fully implement. And not every company has the resources to design a nurturing process around it. Another surprising fact is that only 28% of companies or organizations even utilize the lead scoring tools. A good lead scoring methodology is the most effective way to build a bridge between your sales and marketing teams, and an even better way to help you to understand where your leads are in the funnel. So most of the popular marketing automation tools out there on the market, they all have a scoring tool that's associated with it. So if you choose to adopt lead nurturing and you're using one of these tools, we highly recommend that you understand different scoring methodologies out there and that you implement these so that you're effectively using the tool and knowing how to progress your leads through the funnel. There really is a whole lot more to automation than just the tool, or marketing automation, I should say, than just the tool. The tool is only a small enablement component of marketing automation. True magic happens when you engage the right resources in terms of people and when you are able to get consensus between sales and marketing to commit to a lead nurturing methodology. And that's a big one. You can't leave sales out of creating your lead nurturing programs. Alignment is so important to create an effective program and pass to them leads that are viable and more likely to close than not. Without the other 80%, marketing automation turns into an efficient spam machine. What we have found is that many companies only use marketing automation tools for their most basic function, which includes one-time email blasts, mass communications, often coupled with irrelevant content, which is a killer. Your content's important, needs to resonate with your client base. Many people fail to realize that. Now let's go into some stats. Jay?
Hey, thanks, Katina. I want to present some interesting facts that we pulled from Aberdeen, but first let's take a moment and talk what it's required to become a best-in-class marketing automation or lead nurturing company. I think we all want to be a best-in-class company, and it's not easy. It's, as was mentioned earlier, it's very difficult. You have to first implement the tool, but you have to think about the people and the methodology that you're going to use. So what are some of the statistics around being a best-in-class provider of these services? So the first thing that I think that we should all have top of mind is the best-in-class users need 20 times fewer leads to generate one customer. So that's a pretty staggering statistic, I believe, that it's 20 times less the effort once you have an automation practice in place. 65% of best-in-class users have designed a multi-step nurturing process, meaning that they have put a process around all the complexity and have documented it and are socializing it around the company, and they're using it when they engage with their sales and IT counterparts. That the multi-step process really drives, and it's disciplined, it drives how they work, and they have a documented process. 69% of best-in-class users have dedicated lead management resources. So it's not their night job, they're not part-timing it, they're very focused on understanding how leads are progressing, but all the varying issues from working with technology stakeholders to delivering the required leads to the sales organization, working with the individuals responsible for developing content, compelling content that will drive engagement. They're very multidisciplinary in terms of their approach, and they're very focused. To kind of look at that statistic in another way, we also believe that it's important to bring in the right talent and as you're in the early stages or in the middle stages of developing a lead nurturing process. 42% of the best-in-class companies utilize a consultant or a third party to manage their leads and their tactics. And the reason for this is that you just need experience. There are a lot of unexpected roadblocks. There are a lot of issues. And if you bring in the right company or the right consultant who has overcome those issues in the past, has a methodology and approach, can set expectations properly, I think you will be teed up for success. So let's take a moment and talk about people, specifically those who are dedicated to managing your lead nurturing efforts or ridding your database of zombies or the walking dead. The people that can work on a lead nurturing program or live among the walking dead are very unique individuals. We've coined these guys as zombie lead hunters. Let's take a look at some of the attributes of a zombie lead hunter. Zombie lead hunters are highly skilled marketers, and they're both left and right brain, so they're full-brained individuals. They're comfortable playing the role of database administrator or database analyst. They're comfortable in working in the tool and investing the time to be proficient in the tool. They also understand how to structure a marketing program. They're very strategic, and they can design solutions. They can architect solutions using the tools at their disposal. They are looking for specific data, and they're building reporting that will meet certain metrics that will indicate success. But beyond that, they need to manage and wrangle in vast amounts of content, and they need to coordinate all this activity with a small and mighty team from sales to marketing to third party. And they also need to be a great evangelist and an educator on what success looks like and what a program that is operating efficiently, how we can expect to see results over a certain time frame. So zombie hunters are, again, as I mentioned earlier, full brain. They're able to think in terms of data, but they're also able to think in terms of what's the content or the creativity that's required to really engage audiences and to move them through varying states and of engagement. Best-in-class companies are 5 times more likely than other companies to cite attracting top talent as a pressure impacting their marketing and lead management practices. So holding on to these people is a huge challenge. Not only enabling them and having them go through the required training, but keeping them interested and invested in the process and keeping them in your organization is a really big challenge. This is where third parties can often help, where that consultant or that or dedicated resources can bridge those periods when people are working on a program where they move away from the program. It can provide that consistency or that continuity of services. All right, so let's chat a moment about methodology. And we have some material here that really is going to present our methodology for B2B and particularly IT audiences. There are other approaches. We find that some of this will work for many of you on the call. And please follow up with questions on how this could potentially change with, let's say, B2C efforts or for channel partners. 30% of your success really is based on methodology. So let's jump in. The first point we want to make is there is a real big difference between email marketing and lead nurturing. This chart is based on an infographic that we've made available on our website that I think you should download and refer to often. I know we do. We always ask ourselves, are we merely emailing contacts? Are we e-blasting them? Are we sending information that's relevant or pertinent to them? Are we sending information to the right individuals at the right time? Are we building relationships? Are we able to track how that relationship is growing and nurturing over time? Or are we just sending information out ad hoc and it's not a very strategic set of communications? So let's look at these one by one. Email marketing is really a one-to-many approach where most of the information is very generic. It's meant for the unwashed masses. Where lead nurturing really is targeted, it's one-to-one. Every time we gather some information, when they fill out a form or they visit a website, we should use that information and personalize that communication and react accordingly. Every time they give us something, they should get back something in return. And that's part of the lead nurturing process. And we believe it's fundamental to the difference between email and lead nurturing. Email marketing is very broad. It's the same, one size fits all kind of approach, where lead nurturing must be custom. It has to be super personalized. to that individual. You may even address that person by name or send the email from a very specific individual. So it's a one-to-one communication from someone in your organization to a specific contact. The email marketing is singular. So think of the copy all approach where the information isn't relevant to everyone that's on that email thread or on that piece of communication. Whereas lead nurturing must be integrated, and where we really believe that variety matters. So presenting new and fresh information will keep your contacts engaged and will really make them more likely to open a piece of communication if you kind of build that trust and keep it fresh. Email marketing is sporadic. It's there's a big event or there's a new product launch and there's a lot of activity leading up to that product launch or that event, and there is not any, let's say, cadence to that communication. We're not. It's very episodic versus very. We see lead nurturing as being kind of a persistent engagement. It's very proactive, and it's reaching out and trying to present new and fresh information constantly. And then lastly, email marketing tends to be very quantitative. We sit down with clients, and it's a volume game. It's a numbers game. If they're trying to generate a certain amount of leads, well, the natural place to go is that we need a bigger list, or we need to send more emails to generate those leads. And actually, the opposite can be true. The quality of those lists and the quality of your communications will really help you deliver in a predictable way the number of leads that your program is set out to deliver. And I think a lot of that is managed through a really kind of robust scoring and grading system, I think, is which we'll cover that topic next. So along with understanding the difference between email marketing and lead nurturing, I think it's worth a moment to describe what a proven methodology looks like. So here at MarketStar, we've worked on several programs where we've been able to apply learning and to document a process and provide better value to our clients and to really adhere to those processes and be disciplined and set expectations, not just for the quarter, but what a 1- and 2-year program looks like. So I think if you're considering, or if you're on the early stages of developing your lead nurturing practice, spend a lot of time thinking about the methodology and how you'll document not only the content maps, but plot out the lead flow and use this information to engage your counterparts within your organization and constantly be improving those diagrams and the tools that you use to educate and evangelize lead nurturing with with those individuals in your company. Let's look quickly at the methodology that we've developed here. And again, this is something that if you want more information on this particular model, we're happy to provide it. This model we refer to as the persuasive architecture. And it's really trying to clump or to group in a set of communications into 3 main groups, which are this awareness, consideration, and decision phase. But more importantly, understanding what's the rate conversation starters. How do you start with that first email? Well, we often refer to that as status quo, where we're helping our prospects, the people in our database, to recognize that the status quo is going to potentially limit their business potential. Then we follow with more communication, more content, more assets to really set a priority. Once they realize they may be complacent in a status quo, now we want them to kind of actively search out more information and to really move into a research phase. Once they're in a research phase, we'd like to present our clients' brands as being a trusted advisor, as a source of information, a way to gather and make recommendations. So once leaving the awareness phase, they're into an active consideration phase. And so you can see this not only through how frequently they're opening emails and visiting your website and watching videos and downloading materials, but you can also see it in the kind of information they're providing you through forms and through progressive profiling. So leaving research, I think now we need to present them options and always showing your prospects different approaches to what they already know. And then once they are aware of those options, now it's time to do some objection handling. and maintaining a set of objections that are common, understanding which objections will arise based on their title, their role, where they're at in their consideration is a really important process, and to make sure that you have email or assets and creative that will really help handle those objections. The highest scored and highest graded contacts are now in validation. So they're actively looking for proposals, they're looking for pricing, they've established a budget, there's a defined need, they understand the timing, and now we just need to validate that, yes, working with this company is the right decision, and that we need to validate that information through either claims or proof points or third-party information. We believe that following this approach, staying regimented and very structured around your communications, understand how all this lines up to the sales cycle is hugely important. Okay, two other areas of focus that I think are important to your methodology in developing a discipline around lead nurturing are, first, value streams. And what are value streams? Well, it's the process of documenting the email, the landing pages, the information you'll gather, how all that data will flow into a centralized database, how you will measure distinct phases of communication and understand how your contacts are progressing along. Sometimes we will plot these out in what we call a blueprint, and this is much more of an engineer's view into all the moving parts of a value stream. But I think this is an important process to go through. It really clarifies your thinking and helps you have a visual so that you can sit down with key stakeholders, whether they're creating content or they're expecting a certain amount of leads to be flowing, a certain amount of qualified leads to be flowing through the program. So spend some time describing, architecting, and creating what we refer to as blueprints or value streams. The second area is now starting to make content distinct and personalized to particular roles, and to really highlight what are the call to action elements of each distinct piece of communication. So we refer to these as content maps. And again, try to be very disciplined and very methodical around what information will go to who, and what information will drive a certain action, and what will be the next logical action for that particular contact. So content maps are really the basis for our next topic, which is scoring and grading. I think Katina mentioned earlier that only 20% of the companies out there are using their scoring and grading in their marketing automation platform, and this often is the most puzzling element of a lead nurturing program. A scoring methodology, I think, whether it's a positive attribution you tie to a particular action or a negative attribution, is really that leading indicator, that KPI that will tell you how a particular record is progressing through this defined path or through the value stream, and how they are reacting or engaging to the content that you've outlined in your content map. So a scoring methodology, we believe, should account for two approaches. One, the implicit profiling information you gather through a form or through a smart form that you put in front of a contact to either provide additional profile information about their title, their role in the organization, where they're at in their consideration process, but also the implicit profiling that will drive scores. That's their online behaviors or their digital body language. Where are they visiting on your website? How often, how frequently are they clicking on information? Is the velocity of their activity really telling you something about that this is a high value, high scored contact versus somebody who is very slow to react, but they're moving through the system at a much slower clip? Grading is really looking at the leads that you would consider qualified leads and creating a profile around, are they large enough, are they in the right segment, or in the right vertical, do they have the right title, and really applying a grade to a particular contact and that organization is an important element. So scoring and grading often goes on, neglected, but a best-in-class program will definitely incorporate that as the kind of KPI that drives all activity.
Thanks, Jay. We appreciate hearing about MarketStar's methodology. Just to kind of reiterate and underscore what Jay presented, it's so important for you to have a plan. Make sure that you have a plan before you implement. Make sure that you're including scoring and grading so that you can get the best results out of your program, and more importantly, be patient. It's all about building relationships, and it takes time to build relationships. Michelle, you and I have been working on Schneider Electric's nurturing program for about 2 years now. When we first engaged, you guys entrusted us with about 700 of your dead leads that you weren't really sure what you wanted to do with, and we wanted to try out this philosophy of lead nurturing, and so you handed those 700 leads over to MarketStar, and we began your program. Can you explain to us what factors led to Schneider Electric enabling their traditional ISR team with an automated lead nurturing program?
Sure, absolutely. So really the biggest thing that was going on was that our response volumes were dropping, and so we were really seeing this this traditional correlation that we had between how much money we spent on our Marcom or demand generation efforts driving how many leads were created or generated for us. Really that historic correlation wasn't there anymore. And what that meant was that we really couldn't just throw more dollars at our marketing efforts to generate more qualified leads. And really the leads that we were generating were not converting the way we had hoped they would into opportunities. And so from that determination, we really kind of dug a little bit deeper and looked into the fact that we really kind of had an inefficient process for qualifying and prioritizing our leads. We really weren't clear on who the leads were. They were handed off to a team that basically placed a phone call and said, you know, do you have an opportunity today? And if they didn't have an opportunity, then they were kind of tossed back out there and in hopes that we would scoop them up again through one of our marketing efforts when they did actually have an opportunity. And then there really was, because of that, there was a lot of what we call junk leads being passed to sales because certain quotas were needed to be met, and therefore our rejection rates from our sales teams were at points as high as 80%. So it really was just an inefficient process and a waste of time kind of all around. And then another big thing that we were noticing was that more and more when we asked the question, do you have an opportunity today, we really were getting answers that these leads were not ready to buy. And we really didn't have any kind of process in place to build that relationship with them and be in front of them and continue to nurture them until they were in a position where they were ready to buy.
So a lot of companies, when they embrace the idea of nurturing their leads, I think that a lot of them don't quite understand the commitment that's involved. I mean, it's looking into your database and segmenting, understanding the different personas that go along with your database, and knowing how to craft messages that are specific to those different personas. So the whole idea of having to almost create a brand new library of content so that you can do nurturing effectively it's not something that a lot of companies understand going into it. So what were Schneider Electric's pain points, I guess, in getting consensus from your internal team to make that commitment and move forward?
So it definitely has been kind of a long evolving process. We started it, as you had mentioned, a couple of years ago, and we're still continuing to evolve it today as we learn more. But through that time frame, we actually have invested more and more resources behind it, you know, dollars, as well as actually humans, and really trying to figure out how we go about implementing this truly integrated nurturing program that allows us to communicate through relevant content as our leads go through their buying cycle. And in order to do that, we did some very kind of specific activities. We created what we call educational specialist team that actually sits in the marketing department and not in the sales departments. And these are the reps that are the ones that are calling out and emailing out to these leads, and they really pitch themselves as an educational resource and not somebody in sales. In fact, the intro email that we send out even says, sometimes it's best for me to explain what I do by telling you what I can't do. I can't sell you anything. And by doing that, we've really instilled this kind of level of trust where even when we found that things do turn into opportunities and are passed to sales, the customer actually wants to keep the relationship with the educational specialist and continues to come to them as a resource. And the fact that they sit in the marketing department really has also allowed us to differentiate them. The other big thing that we've done is done several different initiatives to use data insight to append some third-party data to these leads so that we can profile the responses. And we've developed several different data models to try to determine how likely they are to be like an existing customer that we have. And by going through those efforts, it's really allowed us to be much more efficient in the way we segment and profile and prioritize how the leads are interacted with. Tied to utilizing that data, we've been able to develop some very robust, what we call value streams or nurturing paths that these prospects can follow. So based on who they are, it's going to really tie into what messaging we're using to talk to them. We actually also developed a team that we call the Fun Factory here, but we've hired a marketing technology guru who keeps us on the cutting edge of creating very unique and innovative formats for our content. So whiteboarding, animation, we developed a comic book, several different things which just allow us to kind of keep some fun things within the paths. And then, of course, we are becoming much more efficient by investing in and utilizing the automation efforts that we've been able to implement through our relationship with you, MarketStar, and really allowing us to deliver that personalized content, but then also score their behavior and their activity levels and their consumption of what we're sending them so that we can reroute them if it looks like they're not interested or in things we're sending to them, or if indeed they might be interested in something else, and obviously escalate them to insert that human touch when it makes the most sense.
Okay. One of the things that I really want to point out to the audience is Schneider Electric's dedication to staying the course. I know that it's so difficult when you embark upon a nurturing venture to not get salesy in the communications that you send out. And you guys have done a fabulous job of making sure that, especially in the beginning of your nurture path, that you're sending out thought leadership, that, information that is helpful to all your prospects and definitely educational. And so I just wanted to point that out. You guys do a really good job with that. Michelle, can you share some of the results from the nurturing programs that we've implemented the last couple of years?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing is that we've been able to really do more with less. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but through using these automation efforts, we've been able to actually touch 100% of the responses that come in. And so when we say touch, it's either through a phone call or through, the email automation. And then the other big thing is that just based on budget cuts and things, we are spending less on our traditional demand generation activities, but we've actually enabled ourselves to talk to like 15% more of the prospects than we've been able to talk to in the past. And we now are actively nurturing more than 125,000 responses. And through the creation of all these sort of innovative types of content, as well as I think what you pointed out is really trying to make sure that it's relevant, it's thought leadership, it's not salesy or marketing type fluff. We've improved our content submission rates by to 48, almost 49%, which is very exciting for us. And then, you know, in addition to the being able to touch everybody in some relevant way, we also have 20% of those touches becoming marketing qualified leads. And the most exciting thing for us is that when we are passing those leads over, because they have really been qualified appropriately, we have decreased our rejection rates by 93% from sales. So our rejection rates are below 5% now. And that's just built a huge level of trust between the marketing department and the sales department. And they're, you know, they're eager to see things come over, and they are starting to truly give them the attention that they need because they know that we're handing over some good stuff.
Yeah, the decreased rejection rate to me is also incredible. I think that it validates you know, the concept of building that bridge between marketing and sales. Michelle, thanks so much for sharing your experiences with lead nurturing and Schneider Electric with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks.